Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Um, my name is Mike Levine, and it's great to be with you tonight. It's January 1. Actually, the clock has ticked past midnight. It's January 2nd as I'm recording this with you. Um, I'm really excited about 2025. And the reason I'm excited about it is what I'm doing right now. I'm rolling out my new live stream, my new video blog, and the name that we've chosen is Glass House Media. And the reason that we chose the name Glass House Media is because we as a nation and the world, based on technology, the tool that I'm using to speak with you right now, has just made it so we don't have to wonder what's going on in our government anymore. We can know. And yes, it takes a lot of work to keep up with what's going on in Tallahassee, Florida, what's going on at your Board of County Commissioners meeting, in our city council meetings, but we can do it. And I'm going to help do it. I'm going to keep track of what's going on in the Florida legislature, bill by bill. We're going to take a look backwards and take a look and see what happened in the Florida legislature in 2024 and 2023. Many of you know that I'm just irate over the Live Local Act for many, many reasons. Just for those of you who are not familiar, my most critical points about the Live Local Act is that the subsidizing housing in an undersupplied housing market drives the price of housing, and housing is already too expensive. So why would the legislature, why would the state of Florida subsidize housing purchases when houses are already beyond the reach of too many Floridians? And of course, as we price people out of housing with the Live Local Act, we also use taxpayer money to build high-density multifamily apartment complexes where the people who we priced out of housing can live with taxpayer money. And we place those affordable housing projects in your backyard where you don't want them, even though they're built with your money. And that's just one example. I mean, it is a crime. The Live Local Act has so much in it that you and I despise, that it's just a flogging board of bad public policy. Every example of bad public policy you can think of can be exemplified in the Live Local Act. But I'm not here to talk about the Live Local Act tonight. It's horrible. And hopefully we'll be able to persuade our legislators, but more importantly, the executive branch of our government and the leadership of our legislature to gut this horrible legislation. Hopefully we can do that. So the question is, how did such a horrible piece of legislation pass in the first place? And there's lots of fallout about it. We'll talk about it more in future episodes of this video blog. And I'd really love to know what you think about it so that I can address your concerns directly. But right now, I just want to introduce you to Glass House Media. Glass House Media, because we can see inside the house and we can know what's going on in our Florida legislature. We can know what's going on at our county commission meetings. We can know what's going on at our city council meetings. And it's platforms like this that will assist citizens in staying informed so that we can lobby our legislators, lobby our city council members, lobby our county commissioners, and make the right decisions when the right decision is available based on our completely lopsided political system that we have in this country. But today, we're celebrating getting our president, Donald Trump, across the finish line. We're preparing for all that the Trump administration is going to do for America and the world beginning on January 20th, based on the news reports that I've seen and the chatter around the world in anticipation of the Trump administration. We expect the Trump administration to come out of the box strong on January 20th. I know we will, because that's just who our president is, the strong leader with a detailed plan who does not let grass grow between his feet. He's a mover and a doer, and that's what we all need to be. We need to be movers and doers, and we need to protect our freedom and liberty in this country from horrible legislation like we've seen in the last couple of legislative sessions, masquerading as conservatism. So let's just remember that our founding fathers gave us the Constitution of this great country and the Bill of Rights, beginning with our right to free speech, which is what I'm doing right now. So I want to just say that Glasshouse Media is not going to go away. We're going to be here all the time on a consistent basis. I'll publish live stream events and recorded segments of the work that I will be doing on your behalf and with so many of you who I've worked with for so many years. And without us, the grassroots, Donald Trump wouldn't be the president of the United States today. And that's just where it is. It's because of the work of my colleagues over many years of diligent effort, not taking no for an answer, that we find ourselves in this glorious situation as we defeated the establishment in November of 2024. And we got the best president in my lifetime, for sure, reelected to the presidency, to the 47th presidency of this great country. So let's remember that in the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, our federal government granted us the right of free speech. And that just leads me to another concept, which is horrifying to me. And let me introduce this topic by just saying that when I was elected to be the chairman of the Lake County Republican Executive Committee in 2012, I naively, it turns out, believed, as I was told, that my job was to be a liaison between Lake County Republicans and the Republican Party of Florida. So I put on my thinking cap and I said, how can I best provide that critical service to be a liaison between the Republican voters in Lake County, Florida, and the Republican Party of Florida? And it was easy for me because I'm a business guy. I run meetings. I'm a realtor. I know how to run a meeting. So what do? We get together in meetings and town halls around the county, and we put up a flip chart with some markers, and we just ask Lake County Republicans, what is important to you right now? And we documented in 2012 and 2013 and 2014 the thoughts of Lake County Republicans. And then we laid those thoughts on the table at Lake County Republican Executive Committee meetings, and we debated those thoughts. And some of the ideas that came out of these meetings and town halls rose to the level that we could get a supermajority of the Lake County Republican Executive Committee members on board to pass a resolution stating that the topic defined in the resolution was, in fact, the majority, the official voice of Lake County Republicans. And we thought that was great. And we sent that over to the Republican Party of Florida. We also sent it to the governor, who was Rick Scott at the time. We sent our resolution to our legislative delegation, the people who could actually get these things done for us. And then many of you know that the Republican Party of Florida has quarterly meetings. And you know that there are 67 counties in the state of Florida, and each county sends a chairman, a state committee man, and a state committee woman to those meetings. And there are other categories of membership. When the Lake County delegation got to those Republican Party of Florida meetings, we were told in no uncertain terms that it was not our job to get involved in public policy. Our job was to get Republicans elected, period. Our job was to carry out the campaign functions of getting Republicans elected, but communicating our values and our expectations to our Republican legislative delegation was beyond the scope of what we as volunteers remember that all Lake County Republican Executive Committee meeting members are volunteers. The chairman, the state committee man, the state committee woman, all of the precinct committee men and committee women are volunteers, putting in countless hours to get Republicans elected. Yet, when we have an opinion on policy, the people that we put into office tell us that they're not interested in our opinion. I find that to be pretty insulting. Insulting puts it mildly. These boys and girls go up to Tallahassee, completely abandon any thought of the best interests of common, everyday Floridians, so they can hobnob in their fancy suits with fancy clothes and fancy glasses and, eating out in the nice restaurants and hobnobbing because they're so special. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a betrayal. That is a dereliction of their duty. The job of Florida legislators, the job of the executive branch in the state of Florida is to create an environment in this great state where everyday families can make a living, afford to educate our kids, put food on the table, live in a decent house, pay for our utilities, electricity, gas, water, insurance at a reasonable price. But let me just say to you right now that the thought that goes on in Tallahassee, Florida, is about building a big, fat state budget. That's what that's about. So when we subsidize housing in an undersupplied housing market, the rationale for that, when you get up into the people that actually count the money, not the people who just take a glance at the budget and just say, whatever leadership wants, okay, we'll pass the budget. Whatever leadership wants, okay, just don't primary me, and I'll continue to do what you tell me to do. But some people actually count the money. And myself, being in the real estate business, I know for sure that the state of Florida makes a lot more money when houses transfer at $500,000 than when they transfer at $200,000. So just for those of you who may not be aware, every time real estate transfers in the state of Florida, there's a 70 cents per 100 tax. It's called a transfer tax or documentary stamps on the deed. And every time there's a mortgage involved in the purchase of a residential or commercial property in the state of Florida, there are also documentary stamps on that mortgage, 35 cents per $100 of value. And there's intangible tax on that mortgage, 20 cents per $100 of value. So you might ask a question, why would the state legislature subsidize housing in an undersupplied market, driving the price of housing when Floridians can't afford housing as it is? And the answer is because people in the housing industry and the state of Florida collectively all simultaneously make more money when houses are expensive. So now we're looking back on 2024, and the Florida Association of Realtors and other real estate organizations around the country are licking their wounds. They're saying, oh, 2024 was not a great year. Well, no, it wasn't a great year because you subsidized housing purchases in an undersupplied market and drove housing prices through the roof because it was in your best interest to do so. And then, of course, the Federal Reserve couldn't allow the inflation that we were seeing, so they had to raise interest rates. Well, you know, the two factors that you have to deal with when you're buying a house or any property with a mortgage is the price of the property and the cost of the money. So when housing prices and real estate prices are high, but interest rates are low, the down payment, monthly payment is still doable. But when housing prices are high and interest rates rise, that payment's not doable anymore. And that's the reason you had a downturn in the number of units sold in 2024. So, and you know, it's amazing to me that we celebrate rising real estate values because obviously it's great for property owners. Property owners do great when real estate values rise. But the crash always comes. Eventually, the prices get too high, inflation runs rampant, and then interest rates rise. And you can't pay high real estate values. You can't pay for expensive real estate with expensive money. It just doesn't make sense. And today, builders are telling counties, check with your county commissioners, check with your realtor association executives, and talk to them and say, isn't it true that between escalating taxes, mobility taxes, for example, and already inflated real estate values, and now reasonable interest rates, 7% is a reasonable interest rate. Who wouldn't expect 7% or more, 5%, 6%, 7% or more when you loan somebody your money? That's just reasonable. But now that housing prices are high and interest rates are rising to a reasonable level, people can't buy real estate anymore. Oh, guess what? There's going to be a crash. But a lot of people got really rich along the way. So you know what? Maybe the crash isn't going to be too bad for those people. So what I'm saying to you is that with this beautiful technology that we have now, we can stay on top of these things. We can make sure that our right to speak our mind is protected by the First Amendment, and technology gives us a platform on which to speak our mind, point number one. And the second point is that while we're at it, we're going to monitor the economic impact of the legislation that's being proposed and passed, and we're going to look backwards too. And we're going to look at some of the other stuff that's already been done to figure out exactly what we have to do as citizens of this great state of Florida and this great United States of America to make this state and this country livable again. I think that's a pretty good idea. So we're going to protect our right to free speech. We're going to study the economic impact of legislation so that we can make Florida and the United States of America livable again. Here in Lake County, we're going through a major transition. at the Republican Executive Committee, the stakeholder interests who are used to calling the shots around here, pretty much pummeled us in the 2024 primaries. We put MAGA Republicans on the ballot and campaigned hard and spent a lot of money. Facing that challenge, our local elected officials put their shoulder to the wheel, published in local media, made their phone calls, fired up their base, whatever else goes on in these elections where our supervisor of elections does not allow us to have any insight at all into those ballots that make up the vote. It's whatever he says goes, period. Who would have the audacity to challenge the Lake County supervisor of elections? If you do that, you're just a bad person, a deplorable. So they have all the mechanisms of power on their side. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? This Republican is not going to stop fighting. Just so you know, the Republican Party of Florida literally shut down the Manatee County Republican Executive Committee. And I just saw some communication stating that the Osceola County Association of Realtors, in their words, failed to be able to assemble leadership. So the Republican Party of Florida is also injecting itself into the business in the Osceola County Republican Executive Committee. So what you're seeing is some heavy-duty, top-down government. Again, let me just make the point that the Live Local Act usurps the authority over affordable housing from your city council and from your county commission and bestows that power in the state legislature. So your county commissioners and your city council members, when you go ask them, why did you approve a 500-unit, high-density, government-subsidized apartment complex in that horrible location over there, they're going to look at you and say, oh, I couldn't do anything about it because the state circumvented my authority over affordable housing with the Live Local Act. So now they're off the hook. They don't have to look at you and say, and explain to you why they made the decision. They're going to bail out and they're going to point their finger at that guy in Tallahassee who took away their responsibilities. So while he really feels your pain, these glorious people, not a word from them, no outrage from city council members, no outrage from county commissioners that the state of Florida just took away their authority over affordable housing. Oh, because it just really makes their life easier, doesn't it? It's just not my call. Isn't that great? To get elected to public office and get, in Lake County, Florida, our constitutional officers and county commissioners are very well paid. Yet, they also have the flexibility to look us in the eyes and say, oh, you know, I really hate high-density multifamily apartment complexes too, but that mean old Ron DeSantis made me do it. So these are the things we're going to be doing here at Glass House Media. We're going to be taking a look at legislation. We're going to talk about the political environment. We're going to talk about how hard it is. I mean, honestly, you think turning over an incumbent seat is hard. I mean, I ran in an open seat, right? And the whole bandwagon of elected officials just pile on. Yeah, we just want bigger budgets. We want bigger budgets for our offices, for our constitutional offices. And we want to reform the Florida pension plan so that as a public servant, I can double dip into the Florida pension plan and become a multimillionaire on a government paycheck. So basically, our elected officials want to control all of the levers of power because of the money. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, public service should not be about the money. public service should be about making sure that we have an excellent quality of life in this state. And we have to always remember that we govern for the least of us. The financially established citizens of this state are going to be fine. Here in Florida, we have the resources to build great businesses. We attract businesses from all over the world. Our tourism and business, as you all know, is amazing, is unchallenged, unmatched, unparalleled of any other tourism environment in the world. Yet, we're pricing median household income families out of housing. Groceries are through the roof. Fuel is too expensive, exacerbating inflation, and it's not necessary. With proper government in Tallahassee, Florida, and locally, all of our families can do well. And yes, we need to get rid of the illegal immigrants, people who are here in this great state of Florida illegally absorbing good jobs that American citizens who live in Florida should have. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Levine. I'm very excited about my new project, which is the Glass House Media, hosted by Mike Levine, who is the citizens lobbyist. Thank you very much for watching.